Hello, friends. This is the second part of the book My Journey Transforming Dreams into Actions by our former President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Why did it do this? And where did he get the peacefulness and generosity of heart to talk to people, comfort them, and pray for them in the midst of the busyness of his own life? He was a humble boat owner. Life was certainly not easy for him. What with finding the best ways to make ends meet in a tiny temple town cut off from the mainland. Yet, never once did I see my father turn away anyone who wanted to unburden himself by talking to him. Without doubt, he was a deeply spiritual man with some kind of connection with God. I believe his spirituality came from being a learned man. He knew the scriptures and could bring out their essential truth to even the youngest inquiring mind. When I asked him questions, he would always reply and attempt to explain in simple, straightforward Tamil. Once I asked him, "Why do these people come to you? And what do you really do for them?" His reply still stays with me, nearly 5 decades later. Whenever human beings find themselves alone, as a natural reaction, they start looking for company. Whenever they are in trouble, they look for someone to help them. Every recurrent anguish, longing, and desire finds its own special helper. For the people who come to me in distress, I am but a go-between in their effort to ward off demonic forces with prayers and offerings. Then he went on to tell me something about prayers and its power over man that still resonates, despite my years in the field of scientific research. He said to look for help outside is never the final answer. One must understand the difference between a fear-ridden vision of destiny and the vision that enables us to seek the enemy of fulfillment within ourselves. When troubles come, try to understand the relevance of your sufferings. Adversity always presents opportunities for introspection. His advice meant that in the many setbacks and defeats that destiny has handed me, I have always been able to look within for strength. I travel far, far away from life in Rameswaram. My journey took me to places I had never imagined visiting, from the cockpit of a fighter jet to the highest office in the nation. Yet it was always his words that came back to me. There is a divine power that looks over us, that gently lifts us from our sadness and failures and miseries. If we open our minds and let it, it will guide us to our true place. Release yourself from the bindings that limit you and let that power overtake your mind. And that's when you will be on the road to true happiness and peace. This is what I imagine him saying to me whenever I'm worried. I am now 82 years of age. Like him, my day, even today, begins with a walk. Every morning, I savor the sight of the new sun, the beaming light in the sky before the sun appears, the cool breeze and the sweet call of the birds. I understand how this short time of the day binds us to nature. Each morning is different in the way the elements come together for that day. It is a little drama nature puts up only for us, and I can't stop marveling at it. Unlike him, I often find myself in different cities and towns in the mornings because of my travels. But the early morning peace and calm is the same everywhere. Wherever I am, I can find a tree that is great with age, where birds dwell and go busily about their day with the new dawn, whose leaves wave gently to me in the morning breeze. It may be a warm day or a bitterly cold, misty morning when my breath fogs the air in front of me, but this time away from the cares and worries that the rest of the day will invariably bring means so much to me. At my home in Delhi, there is a grand old Arjuna tree. Somehow my feet always pulls me towards it when I walk in my garden. It is usually laden with honeycombs and is home to hundreds of birds, especially parrots. The dignity, beauty, and stature of this tree brings memories of my father to mind, and I even have silent conversations with it. Once I wrote this poem where I imagined what the tree would say to me if only it could. Oh, my friend Kalam, I crossed age 100 like your father and mother. Every day morning you walk an hour. I also see you on full moon nights, walking with a thinking mood. I know, my friend, the thoughts in your mind. What can I give? The great tree in my home. As I walk wherever my life has led me, I often think of my father, Jainulabdin. In my mind's eye, I see a simple man who, even when he was of a great age, continued to walk every morning to his coconut grove. As I see him, I imagine how it's been almost an hour since he set off, and the caretaker of the grove is also up and going about his day. When my father walks into his plantation, the men hail each other with warmth. Perhaps Jainulabdin sits down somewhere a while. The other man climbs a coconut tree. He chooses half a dozen coconuts and cuts them down with a swing of his knife. They fall with a thump to the ground. The man quickly makes his way down. Then he proceeds to tie them up together into a neat bundle. Now the two men sit companionably for a while. They discuss the state of the trees. They peer up at the sky, talk about rains and pests and other matters of the sort. Finally, Jainulabdin picks up his bundle of coconuts, says goodbye, and begins his walk back home. He will give away a few coconuts to neighbors and others. The rest he will find their way into curries and chutneys prepared by my mother. I still remember sitting down to those simple meals and enjoying immensely the smooth, creamy coconut chutney my mother placed on the leaf plate. It is a taste that has lingered in my mouth even years later, made sweeter still knowing that it contained the love of my parents and their honest hard work. The boat. Living on the island of Rameswaram, while I was growing up, the sea was an important part of our lives. Its tides, the lapping of the waves, the sound of trains passing on the Pamban Bridge, the birds that always circled the town, and the salt in the air are sights and sounds that will always remain linked with my memories of childhood. Apart from its sheer presence around us, The sea was also a source of livelihood for our neighbors and us. Almost every household had some connection with the sea, whether as fishermen or as boat owners. My father too operated a ferry that took people back and forth between the islands of Rameswaram and Dhanushkodi, which is about 22 kilometers away. I still remember the time when he got the idea for this and how we built the boat. Rameswaram has since antiquity been an important pilgrimage destination. Rama is believed to have stopped here and built the bridge to Lanka when he was on his way to rescue Sita. The temple of Rameswaram is dedicated to Shiva and houses a lingam fashioned by Sita herself. Some versions of the Ramayana say that Rama, Lakshmana and Sita stopped here to pray to Shiva on their way back to Ayodhya from Lanka. People visiting our town would go to Dhanushkodi as part of their pilgrimage. A bath at Sagara Sangam here is considered sacred. The Sangam is the meeting place of the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean. Dhanushkodi is now connected by road and vans take pilgrims there, but way back when I was a child, a ferry was also a good way of reaching the island. My father, looking to supplement his not very substantial income, decided to take a ferry business. He started building the boat that we needed for this himself on the seashore. Watching the boat come to life from pieces of wood and metal was perhaps my first introduction to the world of engineering. Wood was procured and Ahmad Jalaluddin, a cousin, arrived to help my father out. Every day I would wait impatiently till I could go to the place where the boat was taking shape. Long pieces of wood were cut into the required shape, dried, smoothened and then joined together. Wood fires seasoned the wood that made up the hull and the bulkheads. Slowly the bottom, then the sides of the hull began to form in front of our eyes. Many years later, in my work, I would learn how to make rockets and missiles. Complex mathematics and scientific research would be the bedrock of those engineering marvels. But that boat coming up on a seashore, which would take pilgrims and fishermen back and forth, who is to say it was not an important or momentous in our lives then? The building of the boat was an important influence for me in another way. It brought Ahmad Jalaluddin into my life. He was much older than me, yet we struck up a friendship. He recognized the inherent desire within me to learn and question, and was always there to lend a patient ear and give words of advice. He would read and write English and spoke to me about scientists and inventions, literature and medicine. Walking with him in the streets of Rameswaram or by the seaside or by our boat as it took shape, my mind began to form ideas and ambitions. We will continue with the story in the next chapter. Thank you for listening.